family mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alan, and I'm Senior Account Manager at Soldsie. I want to welcome everyone to our fourth Seller Stories webinar series. In this series, we invite sellers to share their stories and best practices on social selling. I now have the pleasure of introducing a friend and a client of Soldsie, Michelle. Michelle is the owner of Damsel in Distress. For those of you who don't know her story, Michelle has been an entrepreneur since the age of 8. She began selling things since she could say the word money, and since joining Soldsie in May of last year, Michelle has done over $300,000. During Michelle's presentation, please feel free to type questions as there will be a 15-minute Q&A session at the end. I now want to welcome Michelle. Michelle, tell us
Thank
a little bit
you.
more about Damsel in Distress and how you started.
Yes, I would love to talk about it. It's something that I can talk about all day, nonstop, never ending. So yeah, like you said, I have been doing everything entrepreneurial that I possibly could. Oh my gosh, probably since before I was 8. I have been like selling and marketing to the, little kids around me for forever, and making my own things and just wanting to, create my own job. And so Damsel in Distress, I started, I think, it's actually 11 years ago now. I started when I was 18 officially, and I was working a job at a wedding dress shop, and then I just decided that I wanted to get away from all of the white satin and the crazy brides, and especially the crazy mothers of the bride, and I wanted to do my own thing. I was sort of a dork in high school. I wore my goofy Renaissance costumes to school pretty much every day. I was totally that kid, bless my heart, and it sort of worked out in the little nowhere farming communities that I lived in, and so it naturally turned into a business. Obviously, when I got out of high school, because I already loved the stuff, I already wore it. I already was practically a walking billboard for my own designs.
That's awesome. So, I know prior to coming to Soldsie, you were selling on Etsy and Renaissance fairs. Tell us a little bit how you were driving sales that way.
Yeah. So I started actually selling stuff when I was 16. I used my mom's credit card information. I, signed on to eBay, and I made my own account, which, of course wasn't necessarily okay because I wasn't 18 yet, but that was fine. And then this would have been back in, oh man, 2001 or so. And I know that there was nicer cameras than I had, but of course I couldn't afford them. I was from a family of 8 kids, and my parents didn't exactly make the big money. They're very hardworking, but not necessarily wealthy. And so I just had a little piece of junk camera. I would take the film pictures and then take them and get them developed at Sam's Club or Walmart, and then get a CD produced with the pictures on them, and then I would take the CD back to my computer. I would upload my pictures that I had taken out sort of behind our house. My parents grew up on or rather raised us on a 60-acre farm, and so I would dress up in my costumes and then haul my little 14-year-old sister out with me and be like, all right, Emma, now take this picture of me, now take this picture. And so she would be my little photographer, and then I'd post my pictures on eBay, and I started selling, and I was surprised. I was just like, oh my gosh, this works. I guess it seemed too good to be true. I remember we made this beautiful, me and my sister actually combined forces, and we made this really beautiful medieval style gown, and it was gold and really trimmed out with ribbons and stuff, and we sold it to a lady for her wedding dress, and it was $200, and we were just like, oh my golly, we're rolling in the Benjamins. It was so exciting for us, and so just taking a feeling like that and running with it. When you have those sales that really mean something to you, I think that's what entrepreneurship is all about. That's what spurs you on to another day. It's okay, I know how that felt to make that big sale, crushing it with this, and that's what drives me today. It's still, finding the exact right person for the exact right item, having them be excited about it, having me be excited about it. that's just a joy. And we love, I mean, we love that we make costumes that are like more for special occasions. You know, it's literally putting on this sort of different version of you. And our core sets are really cool because they're like fully boned with all these metal pieces of boning, and they make you stand up really, really straight and tall. And so even just giving the person a different posture and a different way of holding themselves is actually really powerful for them. And so when we go and we do our sales in person at festivals and at conventions, you know, we pretty much just play dress up all day. I mean, hello, best job ever. Yes, please. Like, I just get to make women feel pretty, and that's really why I keep going and doing these shows, you know, when honestly, like, online is working pretty well for me thanks to Soldsie. But, you know, just going and meeting the people has been really, really a good marketing strategy for us as well, because then they get to feel the product and meet the actual person who made it. And once again, yes to playing dress up all day long. Like, that's the best part of the job.
So it's great. I mean, you get to do that at festivals where you get to interact with the clients. And how were you
Yeah, yeah.
how were you driving your online sales prior to Soldsie and social selling? I know you'd mentioned to me using Etsy.
Yeah, yeah. So we had been using Etsy sort of back in the glory days before they sold their soul to the devil, and that's, you know, that's fine. That's neither here nor there. So they worked pretty well. It's good to know that oh my gosh, when I first started listing through them back in, I believe it was 2007, they had it was like, okay, upload your picture, and then you had to click to the next page. And it was like, on this page, you're going to upload your shipping information. And then you'd click on to the next page. And you had to go through like all these different pages just to get one item listed. And then they didn't even have like an option to just like, okay, copy this item. You know, I'm grateful because it was a good platform as far as just sort of putting ourselves out there in the quote, quote, handmade market. You know, because that's what it was. It was very much like, okay, you're connecting with the real people who made the stuff, and so that was obviously a good place for us. And you know, it worked, but there was definitely some issues, which is sort of, you know, what ended up leading us to Soldsie anyhow. It's just we were like, okay, you guys are great, but we're sort of in this relationship that is maybe abusive. So that's why we ended up leaving them and working over and coming over to Soldsie.
So when you were using prior to using Soldsie, when you were selling on Etsy, what were you using your social media platforms for?
Yeah, so mostly it would just be, I mean, I really do like social media with just sort of, you know, connecting with the customers. Like, I know that sounds like a canned answer, but it's like, hey guys, this is us. This is what we're doing. We would, you know, post pictures of the products we were making. I would actually let them help pick fabrics for the products. Like, we would vote on the products. You know, I would send them to links to different sites that had, you know, fabric, and I'd be like, what would you like to see the next costume made out of? And so that was super fun, and that's what I've been using Facebook for a long time. But really, you know, that's all I was really using it for, I guess. It was mostly just like, all right, you know, here's another like item we have for sale. Here's a new style, and then helping them get to know our company. But that was pretty much, you know, essentially all. I don't even use my own personal Facebook. I always just go right to my business. I'm like, my personal life is boring. On to the business.
I mean, so you were sort of alluding to it. I know you said you had some issues with Etsy. You sort of broke Etsy from our
Yeah, I
personal
did.
conversations.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, yeah.
so what are you doing now? I mean, you're using Soldsie. How are you selling with Soldsie? Like, are you doing
Yeah,
weekly
so
events or?
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's what you guys recommended from the very first, and I thought that it sounded brilliant. And so, yeah, we just do a weekly event. We do them every Wednesday night, and we do it at 7 o'clock my time, which I have to translate every single time for my customers. I'm like, okay, it's 7 o'clock Mountain Time, which means 6 o'clock if you're on the West Coast, 8 o'clock if you're on the, yeah, and so I have to, like, go through, and that's fine. I think most people have gotten it by now. It's really fun for us. It really stretches my brain, and it's actually, you know, it's been really fascinating. It helped me to improve on a personal level too, because I've always bucked a little bit against like setting goals. So like, oh my gosh, every time I set goals, they don't work. And, that's like the lie that I was telling myself. And so it helps me really plan out a lot further ahead and really, really try to make sure that I am focusing on my goals and I have a lot of clarity. And so even just that idea of like, okay, well, I have to know what's happening a week ahead. I mean, I can't just like accidentally list stuff. I know what amount of money that I want to make, and I know what I need to do that week. And so that has, that's, oh my gosh, just grown my business tremendously. And like I said, grown me as a person, and it's helped my employees and people I work with to know more what to expect too. So even just that one change was like a night and day shift for my company. So thank you, you guys.
And I know, I mean, before we get into what everyone wants to hear is like some of your marketing strategies and tips, tell me a little bit about this habit loop. Because I remember when I spoke to you, you were like, these weekly events or selling through social, like creating habit loops for customers to drive your business forward. What is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually thinking the other day, like, I remember our very first conversation, and you called me, and I pretty much gave you your sales pitch. I was like, Alan, listen to this. I was like so excited about it because I could automatically see how it was going to create this emotional reaction in my customers. There's a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and it's an incredible book. It's yellow and it has like some circles on the cover. Look for it. It's one of those like life-changing books. And he talks about how human beings, our brains work in habits. Like habits are literally what get us through the day. And there's of course good habits and bad habits. Like there's the habit of us getting up in the morning, eating our breakfast. There's lots of habits that are sort of on autopilot for us, and they save us from having to make a huge do I or don't I decision about, do I eat these Cheerios? No, you just eat the dang stuff. And so with habit loops, what you have is you have a cue, is like the top of the circle. And think of the circle going around to the routine, and then the circle closes with the reward. And so if you have a cue, which in our case, the cue would be, it's Wednesday night, it's time for the new stuff. And then the routine is everyone knows the time to log on. They know what to expect from my company. It gets their like adrenaline pumping, like it gets them excited. And then the reward is getting to like either participate in the sale or just watch other people buy. I mean, it's been really funny. I've had people come up to me at shows and they're like, Michelle, I never buy from your events online because it's so like intense, but I love watching all the other ladies fight over it. But like for the most part, I would say probably like 99% of the customers just love it. And then there's a few ladies that like their hearts can't take it because it is aggressive. I mean, it's like, here's a packet of blood and you throw it into a pool of sharks. Like that's about the level that it is. And that's actually why we had to leave Etsy, because we would have sort of these flash sales and Etsy would oversell my products. And I just, I'd have to send emails and be like, so, hi, you had a thing in your shopping cart at the same time that another lady had it in her quote, quote, shopping cart. And you guys were literally clicking on the, commit to buy button at the same time. And we were just breaking Etsy's system. And I would contact the people, up top, and they just like wouldn't even care. They're like, nah, your problem. Like, guys, like I know that it doesn't sound like the worst thing ever, that like, oh no, I sold more than, I listed 2 and I sold 10. But it is a problem when you have handmade items and you can't just remake the things. And so that was also another thing that Soldsie solved for us, was just that, that element alone. Like, okay, we're not going to oversell. There's a timestamp on the computer. It's not going to be crazy.
Great. So let's move on now to some of your tips on marketing. I know we talk, and I truly believe you're like a marketing genius and you're very humble about it, but share with everybody. Share with us how you're doing it. Like, what's the train of thought? What are some of the things you do to re-engage your customers and get them to come back?
Yeah. So I always try to make sure that the passion that I have for my product absolutely spills over into everything that I post. I don't think that I've really ever stopped working. Like, I mean, I quote get off work and then I'm cooking dinner for my family and still thinking about corsets and thinking about my company. And I'm just so excited to do it. Like I wake up every morning and I love what I do. And so I don't think it's hard to do social media because it's like, I can post about everything and anything. And so just the idea of being sort of like really excited about your product. I mean, I really, really think that if you're not excited about what you're doing with your life, then you can make a change. And I believe that was like with every fiber of my being. And so another thing that I try to do is, like, if I have something positive to say, then I'll say it. I don't try to force things necessarily. Like if I'm in a bad mood, I never let that spill over onto the internet. I try to not ever let my posts be like, oh my gosh, you know, like people will take whatever feeling and emotion that you invoked in them and link it to your company. So even if you were talking, like, let's say you were mudslinging and talking about another company that doesn't do cool stuff, you know, and you don't think that that's a good thing, the people would still read it and take away that feeling from your company. And I don't ever want to give that to people. I really want to be a positive force out there, you know, because the internet can be so, like, so vile, you know, and so much fighting and so much crazy. And I think it's so important for women to have, like, a safe place where they can go. I know it sounds sort of crazy, but I literally believe that's sort of what we provide. I've been really lucky. Women have created on their own, created sort of side groups like Damsel in This Dress, like fan club type of groups on Facebook. Like there's one for photos where the women just post photos of them in their costumes, which, thank you, ladies, thank you. Like that's the best thing ever. And there's another one that is for fitness, which I think is adorable. It's like, hey, other girls who like corsets, let's all be fit together. And so like they'll boost each other up. And so I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I will get on the group sometimes and talk to them, but that's been an amazing thing because I will post something and the groups will already have told everyone else about it. Like I hardly even have to do my own work. You know, it's like the work is done for me. And that was all created because, like I said, of that passion and that authenticity and that having a good place, having somewhere where people just can go and feel good.
So I mean, it
Everything's
almost
pretty
sounds
simple
like
for me.
listening and interacting with your customers is a huge component of driving your social media and your success. Would you say that's
Yeah,
true?
yeah, yeah. It's always those basics. Like I wish that there was some edgy new program that involved me doing nothing and making money. But it's usually not like that. It always does come back to that human element, you know, and like what emotion do you want to evoke from the people that you're working with? And so we try to make sure that our customers feel like they have input even on, you know, what we're going to sell, the tweaks that we're going to make. I mean, I'll change the whole entire pattern that we're producing just based on customer suggestions. And like, granted, I don't like hearing that I did something wrong, but the ladies will be posting on Facebook about it, you know, anyway. Like they'll be posting a picture and saying, hey guys, I don't like how this is laying. What do you think? And so if I'm there listening and I say, okay, I see your comment. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, thank you for sharing your voice. Let's see what we can do to change that. Then they build that trust with me, and trust with your customer. Oh my gosh, it's, you know, once again, it's sort of one of those basic things, but it's absolutely essential. You have to have the people that, you know, are going to be loyal to you down the road. And I really think that's a big thing that small companies have over sort of massive, you know, corporation, you know, with a faceless, nameless, and like they don't have that element of that personal connection. And so I love it. I love answering emails. It's stressful some days, but I really try to make sure like I get to all of them. I pay close attention to what people are saying. I keep my finger on the pulse of the company, and that is what keeps the heart beating.
Definitely. And as far as like, customer loyalty goes, like what kind of little things or big things do you do to get your customers to come back? Like I know you've mentioned before putting together these little kits and mailing them with their purchases or coupon codes. Like what do you do
Yeah, yeah.
exactly?
Yeah, so what I'm working on right now is I actually reached out to some artists that were previous customers of mine. I just thought, hey, these girls are incredible at graphic design, and so I had them design some really cute little logos for me. And so I'm making stickers that I can send out, because like, hey, look, more product placement. and so what I'm doing is I'm putting together these like cute little swag bags, and they're going to have stickers. They're going to have like a little checklist of like things you might want to take with you if you're going to be dressing up in costume for an event. And they're going to have like, some little thank you mints, because I think candy can go a long way. At least it can for me. And just like, I even like wanted to write some little, handwritten thank you notes. Like I try to write on the invoices, especially if it's customers I know that we've done a lot of business with, and I even like know what's going on in their life. I'll just write on their little Soldsie invoice. I'm like, hey, Rochelle, how's it doing? I heard about your daughter, like, killing it on her ballet, recital. Like, I try to keep it personal. I'm very lucky that I have made a lot of effort to try to remember names and faces. And obviously Facebook is such a blessing for that, because you can go and find a person and their face and really just concentrate on that and try to remember them. And then if I see a person at a show, and, it's like, hey, Jenny, how's it going? They're like blown away. I mean, that's something in How to Win Friends and Influence People. He talks about the most beautiful sound to a human being is the sound of their own name. I just thought, oh, that's so beautiful. And so we try to remember names. And I do, like, as far as, keep driving the Soldsie sales, we actually do make little coupons that we send out every week. And they actually have like a little secret preview of what's going to be on our event for the next week. And so that's really exciting for people too. And then they have a coupon code that they can use, and it's only available on that next, Soldsie event. So that's been really, really working out well for us, because it allows us to see where we have return customers, and it's, once again, it's creating that habit loop. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got this coupon code. I have to use it. And like, I'm a human being. I know the power of sort of that feeling of loss, that you feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't use my coupon. And it feels like you lost that $10, even though that's like not how it works at all. But hey,
That's awesome. And then one other thing I want to touch on from a marketing and driving sales perspective
Absolutely.
is your videos. Like videos, for everyone out there that's listening, we all know Facebook's algorithm has changed, and Facebook is optimizing for video posts, getting the best organic reach. Michelle, you've been using videos like since the beginning of time, and I see you doing videos every single week to market for your upcoming event. Like, what inspires you? Like, how long are these videos? What do you put in the videos to market for your upcoming sales?
Right. So I think the best part about the videos is that they allow people to sort of get the personality of, I guess, like me and my company. I don't really separate me and my company out in my brain. And so they're really fun because they really help people to connect with us. I draw really goofy little cartoons for the videos, and I always do like a little voiceover. And he's actually the guy that helps us like produce our core sets. He puts the grommets in them, and he does a lot of the tagging. And he's a really, really good friend of mine, and he is the one who does my videos. And we were really lucky that he just happened to be a videographer, and that's what he wanted to do. And so when we were moving on to Soldsie, I actually approached him, and I said, hey, so I'm going to need to market for these. I wonder if we should just like create these little videos and see how it works. And so he was really excited because that allowed him to honor his passion. And like, I want to keep everyone happy at work. I mean, I love the people that work for me. I want them doing something that they're excited about, just like I get to. And so he's the one that puts the videos together for me. And so it's almost like combining his really funny, ironic sense of humor with mine. And so they turn out like sort of hilarious. We usually try to just do like a preview of the item. I try to talk about like if there's a backstory behind the item, or if I named the item after, somebody specific, or, even like possible changes that I've made to the pattern, because I'm always changing my patterns to make them a better fit, based on the customer suggestions. And so I'll just say that in the video. And then we try to post the video usually about 3 hours before the actual event on Wednesday night. And so it's really cool because that sort of helps get people pumped up, like actually seeing a video and getting to watch this little thing, a little commercial for our company is really fun. Like we're so blessed that like people want to watch our commercials, because usually if you get a commercial online, you're like, oh my gosh, give me the skip option. But here's all these people like actively watching, so that's awesome.
Great. So talking about planning like you were before and setting goals, what are your goals for Q1 this year?
Oh, they're ginormous. They're so huge. Well, I think they're pretty big for my smaller company. We are wanting to definitely pull in at least 40,000 a month. Ideally, a lot more than that, obviously, especially in October when it's costume month. But starting out in January, like this is usually a dead season for us, and we are already kicking butt. I mean, I feel so good about what we've already accomplished. I was I had a little bit of trepidation going into 2015 just because I thought, oh man, it's a new year. Like, what am I going to do? But when I think and really sort of get excited about what I'm doing, then the fear all goes away. You just have to really sort of plow into it, push through any weird little fears or like little like stupid voices in your head that tell you can't do it, and just start going. And so the goals get me really excited because they help me see this vision for where my company could go, and we're getting bigger and better all the time. So we wanted to also really work on adding, oh my gosh, this is crazy, but adding like a never before seen product every week. And so far we've been doing really well, and it's been so fun. I mean, it stretches my brain. It makes me get outside of my comfort zone. It makes me really think like, okay, I've got this design. How could I tweak it? How can I totally make it something new? What can I get inspired by that will make these feelings and images in my head turn into a corset. So that's a really fun thing that we've been doing, and I think that's another element of keeping people interested. It's not like, oh my gosh, these guys are putting out more of the same junk and just trying to push it on us. Like, no, new is pretty good. Once again, we're dealing with human beings. Like, it's just how our brains work. And another goal that I'm working on with you, because you're awesome and you're super supportive, and I need you to like come to my business every day and be like, Michelle, I'm here. Let's talk about being awesome. But yeah, I definitely want to get on Instagram. Just talking to you before the podcast started, I was already getting psyched. I was just like, oh my gosh, like Alan, pretty much killed it with getting me onto Facebook, and look how much my company's grown and expanded, and me personally, and my goals and everything. And so adding another level to that, heck to the yes, please, Instagram. So yeah, I'm on board there. I love it. I love what Soldsie does. I love how they're right there, sort of where the stuff is happening. I just think it's so brilliant.
Awesome. So, before we get on to the Q&A and our last couple slides, what are your 5 tips for success for all of our listeners?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So I would say, we'll just go through it numerically. Number one, I always think that you've got to work on yourself first. You have to really make sure that you are doing your very best. That sounds like, a motivational poster, but I heard this quote. I believe it's a Jim Rohn quote, and oh my gosh, I love him. But he said that your level of personal success rarely exceeds your level of personal development. And so I got really excited about that, just because I thought, you know what, the more books that I listen to, the more I open my mind to new ideas, to new people, to new opportunities, the more my success will grow, because I'm growing myself. And so when you take care of yourself, you create this space where you can literally plant the seeds that will grow into ginormous trees, like you're creating that space. I'm another Jim Rohn quote. Oh my gosh, I could quote him all day. I love that man. He said, like, don't bring the universe your need, bring the universe your seed. And so in talking about a seed, he's talking about like, getting out there and listening to, like books, trying to learn, trying to do those exercises and those practices that like, oh yeah, I know it's good to exercise, I know it's good to eat right, but like, hey, if you bring that to the universe and you're like, hey, I brought the stuff, instead of just bringing a vacuum of like, yeah, I really wish that I could do this. I wish that I could be rich. Like, nobody wants to hear a whining, complaining, I don't have anything. If you see somebody out there hustling, like, they're going to get what they want. End of story. So work on yourself first. Yes, yes, yes. Number two would be really practicing on visualizing, thinking about, like thinking about how will it feel, how will it taste, how will it sound, like what does success look like for you? And those are some actually really deep questions, and it sounds crazy. I hadn't really thought to ask myself about maybe where I wanted to go. I've been sort of like letting the company drive me, and so like climbing back in the driver's seat, and then really taking control and saying, where do I want to be, in this much amount of time? Like, why am I doing this? What is the real base emotion that I'm searching for? What do I want to achieve, with my life? Like, what do I want on my gravestone? And so that was a huge thing for me. Number three would be, this is definitely like a personal one for me. I think blogging is still awesome. Like, sorry, I still love reading blogs from really clever people that are good writers. I think all of us have a writer voice inside of us, and it's just dying to get out. Because think about your constant, like, monologue that goes on in your head. Like, you're always talking to yourself there in that brain. And putting it out on paper is a really powerful thing. It changes everything. Like, you get your problems out there, you get your feelings out there, let yourself be vulnerable, and other people will really, really connect with you on just this amazing level. That's how it's worked with me. I mean, I have people coming up to me at festivals and like, Michelle, I read your blog. Oh my gosh, it's awesome, and that's like such a rewarding thing. I never thought that would happen to me ever in my life. It's just like, my dorky little blog where I draw pictures and post pictures of our products and talk about my struggles. But it's like it touches people. They see, hey, they're a human being. They got over this stuff. Maybe I can too. Number four, for like tips for killer success on your business, would definitely be to think of every picture as, like almost imagine it as a billboard or something. Like, this is going to be talking for your product so that you don't have to do the talking. And so what do you want it to say? What kind of feelings do you want it to have? My husband's really, really good at that. He does all of our photography, and he's really good at thinking about sort of telling the story and putting things into perspective. And there's oh my gosh, it's so easy to take good pictures nowadays. Like, I mean, please, like Instagram is like, what beautiful filter of life-changing filterness would you like to put on this picture you just snapped 3 seconds ago? Like, there's no excuse for not taking beautiful pictures. Everyone can do it. It's just like playing piano. You've got to practice to be good and do the concert, but you'll get there. Like the pictures are such a huge element, and visual learners, I think that's like a thing for everyone. And just having that image to attach that emotion to, that's a huge thing. And then five would be probably just always coming from a place of service. I think that's been super important to me. If I'm in a bad mood and only thinking about myself and what I want, my day inevitably just goes down the drain, and I'm cranky, and I don't know, I just hate what I'm doing. I hate everything. But when I actually really take some quiet time to focus on, okay, these women and people, that are buying from my company are the whole reason I even have the life that I have. And so how can I serve them? Like, they're the ones that are supporting me and making this possible. And so I can't be selfish and be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give you what you want. I just want to do what I want. Like, it's so important to just, remember that these people are the whole reason for what you're doing. And so when you serve them, you feel better about yourself, and it helps you to even like make a better company as far as your products and everything. Like, when you're focusing on service, you automatically have these products that appeal to more people because they're not selfish, and that's been something wonderful for us. We love the people that make our company happen, and I always try to make sure that I tell them, and thank you so much. Like I said, like handwritten notes all the way whenever possible. And that would about wrap it up. Like those are the basics. Those are what I use every day of my life, and so far it's been working pretty dang well.
Great. So, I mean, where your company is now, I'll go ahead and go over this recap. In the month of November
Hmm.
alone, you did over $100,000. And I know before we mentioned you've done over $300,000 since you started with Soldsie. You've actually done now over 330 since we first started talking about this, which is awesome. Also, too,
Thank you.
I know, and this shows with the way you serve your customers, but 70% of your sales are from returning customers, which is
Yes,
great, I think.
yes.
Any sort of company, and you've definitely alluded to this, you should keep building on your existing clients and getting them to return while capturing new ones to generate an
Yes,
increased revenue.
yes.
And you've done a great job at doing that.
Hmm.
I know you said this is a Q1 goal, or we set this as a goal together, launching your Instagram store. Just quickly, what are some of your ideas that you have for your Instagram store?
Yeah, so like I talked about, we are sort of a little bit more unique in the fact that we actually sort of do almost a in-person retail side by side along with the online, but it's not a constant retail store, of course, because we go out to these events. So like how me and my husband work it out is we're just like, where would we like to travel to on vacation? Do they have a pirate festival, or like a Renaissance festival or something? And so we find these like goofy, crazy, little town festivals, and then we get to go and travel to these places and meet new people. And so I was thinking that with Instagram, it would be incredibly cool to just, use the Instagram account, take pictures of the event, and take pictures of like us having fun with the customers, and the products that people get to see, and us playing dress up with all these ladies, and really get people sort of excited about that. And then right after the event, while we're still fresh in everyone's mind, then we could offer, new products that maybe we had, like we could say, hey, we listened to you guys at this last event, or we took a survey at the event, and here's the result of what you wanted. And then we could, just list the products right there on Instagram, which, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. That's such a cool program. Like, hallelujah. And then I thought, as far as like Instagram is definitely one of those things where it's like, the new, like, who, what's new? And so I think it would be really, really fun to have naming contests right on Instagram for like our new products, say like, hey, we're going to release a new product and it's only going to be on Instagram, make it exclusive, because goodness knows, like when customers feel like it's this exclusive, like, secret club, it really does feel cool. Like, let's be honest, like, we really do want to sit at the popular kid table. And so I guess like making Instagram like the popular kid table for my company, I think would be a great strategy. I think that sounds really intriguing, and I love Instagram. I mean, I really like the company themselves, and so that's something that I am super psyched about.
That's awesome. So we've got a few questions here for you, Michelle.
Okay.
First one, let's see. Laura is asking, how does one create a weekly hourglass event? Is it just a special time that people come to buy? Like, what is it exactly?
Right, right. So we always like make sure to sort of plan ahead and tell people what we have going on. But basically what we do is we try to pull out styles that we don't currently offer or that are completely new. And then of course we have to plan way out ahead because we manufacture all of our own products. And so, like, I'll say, okay, we're going to do this corset that nobody's ever seen, and then we will make it and work on the products and, make sure we have all the sizes in a lot of different colors. And then I will take pictures with a professional model, sometimes on model, if I'm feeling too lazy to find somebody. That's always fun. And then we get all the pictures ready, and then we sort of create the hype about it. And so that's a really fun thing, because then it's like this weekly, like, oh my gosh, a new design. And so that's really helped us. And of course, I'm really lucky because I have, because we make our own products, we have a lot of control over that. And so that's sort of how our, like, hourglass events work.
Great. I've got a question from Eileen. How do you choose what to list in each of your weekly hourglass events? Is it always something new, the latest and the greatest? Do you offer discounts? And then how much time do you spend on preparing for your weekly events? And how far in advance do you prepare? Sorry, that was like a
Oh
million
yeah,
questions.
sure, sure. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I try to plan them out at least a month in advance. I mean, like I said, we've got to have some time to really make sure that we are ready and like ready to pull the trigger. When I was doing our events for Halloween, I was actually trying to do like a 13 days of Halloween. And I realized that, oh my gosh, I need to like start planning for, like Halloween 2017, like right now, because it killed me. Like I would be, because we had an hourglass event every night, and I was listing the stuff like, I was still frantically listing and inventorying like 5 minutes before the sale would start, which I'm so ashamed. So I never want to go back there. So we try to make sure that we're about a month out. And then to create hype, I do like an email newsletter, which like those are interesting. I recently started doing those, and I have liked them because I do feel like it can reach this sort of different audience. Because like bless their hearts, lots of people still don't really end up seeing stuff on Facebook just because Facebook is volatile. Like they can miss it if it's 2 hours down in their news feed. But we definitely hype it on Facebook. And as far as deciding what to actually make, I literally don't know where the ideas come from. It's like I will be laying there in bed at night, and then it will come to me. It's always either in the shower or as I'm going to sleep, and suddenly it'll be like, oh my gosh, that design would be epic. And then I go ahead and design it. But lots of times we actually try to do pop culture type of events. And so like the show Green Arrow is really popular right now. So for instance, we're like, hey, we know that we've had a lot of customers sending me emails asking about Green Arrow costumes. And so we're going to do one that's just based around like a female, like cosplay version of Green Arrow. And so that's another way that we come up with things is we try to, like I said, just really listen to what the customers are excited about, listen to suggestions, and then we just do what they tell us. It's sort of easy.
Great. So I've got a question for Alex. Actually, I've got two questions. First one is, um, do you post individually, just like a bunch of products in individual posts, or do you post them in an album? That's the first question. Second question
Mhm.
is how did you get through the education process of teaching your customers how to shop, especially coming from a different platform?
Yes, yes. I love both of those questions. So what we do is we try to list about 15 to 20 items because then hopefully it won't be so much work like scrolling down in the thing. And that's crazy. I've actually never thought of posting it in an album, but I don't know. I guess I just sort of like populating somebody's whole entire feed with my products because I'm greedy or something like that. But so I think it's really cool to just see them all there, just showing up, and people love. So we have them. I think they show up like 10 seconds apart. And so, like I said, it's really good to get the customers like adrenaline pumped up, and like their heart racing. Because it's like, oh my gosh, what's the next thing that's going to list? And honestly, I just watched another company do their Soldsie event, and that's how it felt to watch theirs. And it was a super awesome experience. And so I just thought, you know what, this other lady that's using Soldsie is crushing it and making a lot of money and doing really well. So I will just emulate what she's doing. And then for the other question, it was a little bit interesting trying to educate because it is definitely a new type of thing. I mean, we did make a little infographic, where it's like how to buy using our Soldsie affiliate. And we try to actually post it every week because there's always new people coming in that just have no clue what's going on. But the cool thing is that like once you get past that initial sort of like push through the growing pains, it's actually really simple. Honestly, I would say that probably about 3 weeks in, like most people were like hip with how it went and really understood it well, because they would experience it, and people would post online, and before I could even get to answering the question, the other customers would answer it for me in a more succinct, straightforward way because I'm sort of a talker, and so they would just be like, oh no, the wait list works like this, the invoice system works like this, because the customers had gone through it. And so since we have a really, supportive customer base, then they just, like I said, just answer my questions for me. But like I said, actually just making a really good infographic that's very clear. And even, I mean, I had Alan send me some sample infographics of other companies and just, studying what they did and just creating our own. It's not that hard, and it's really, really useful. And I think, like I said, I think once they get past the initial first buying process, it really is. It's so easy. It's so straightforward. It's not confusing. So.
Cool. So I've got a question from India. India is asking, I've lost reach on all my customers. I post daily, weekly giveaways, and my reach is zip. How often, do you post on Facebook? Like, what would you recommend?
As far as like just posting like status updates or
Yep.
like,
Just everything outside of sales, let's say.
yeah, everything outside of sales. That's man. I sometimes go up and down. Like I said, I just think it's so important to like have something to say. And so I'm not like a constant poster. I did pay really, really close attention to my Facebook insights, and go in and learn how to read those. And then like I see when the most people are going to be online. And I do know that it's always really a better experience when you get people involved in the discussion, and especially if people feel like they can like offer you advice. Like everyone wants to offer advice. It's like, it makes them feel good. And so I will honestly just ask my customers like a question. I think the most popular post from last month was me complaining about how my hands were chapped and dry and what hand cream could I use. And people are like, oh my gosh, Michelle, you have to do this. Do this. So I don't know, just like I said, like having that personal connection. You should never ever. This is my opinion, but it shouldn't ever be all just about sales. It really, really needs to be about the human element and about the emotion that you're, invoking in the people. And so, if all it is just like, hey, we have this new thing for sale, it's never going to have a heart and soul. I mean, there's a company that sells the exact same type of product we do. They sell corsets, and they make a crazy load of money, and they probably have 100,000 Facebook fans, and they like produce their corsets overseas, and then they just sell them over here. And they do a ton of posts, but there's no comments ever on their posts. And the only comments, oh, this makes my stomach hurt to think about it. The only comments on their posts, like they'll post a new corset item and they'll be like, hey, look, new item. And then they'll get people posting customer service questions on that, like under the item. It'll be like, hey, I put my order in 3 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything from you guys. Or, hey, what's the return policy on your thing? And, like, the company just has no soul. And it makes me sad, Like, you want your company and your customers to have that connection. And so I just think, like, think about what makes you special, Like, post about yourself. Make it, or even just post about what the customers would be interested in, Try to put yourself in their shoes. Like, if they're already interested in my product, what also goes along with my product that I could post about? So, sorry,
Great.
that was a long answer.
Yeah. So I've got a follow-up question from Laura as well as
Okay.
Christina. So Laura's question is, I have trouble making that personal connection as I'm a very private
Sure.
person. What would you recommend for getting
Hmm.
over this, or like, is there any sort of alternative to come across the same way without being too personal? And then
Oh, yeah,
Christina's other
no.
question
Sure.
is, do you sell on Facebook more than just your Wednesday night sales?
Right. So I can answer that one really quick. I don't sell on Facebook more than my Wednesday night sales. That's sort of where I concentrated everything. Um, However, I think with doing Instagram, that's going to help with the sales in between. We have other outlets. I mean, we have our website, and so that's another place. So we have like sort of lots of different places that we sell, but we really do actually want to move forward in the future, like focusing way more on Soldsie, just because it's been such a good experience for us and has been so successful. Like take what you're doing that's really, really working and amplify that. And as far as the other question, like, I feel you, sister. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm like a weird, like, introvert, extrovert brand of person. And I, like, usually don't want to share stuff, especially not my failures. Like, I don't want to share it. But I guess it's so important to realize that, when you do make that personal connection or, like, share something that helps somebody get to know you, it's like I said, I mean, that's what small businesses have over large companies. That's where we really, really are just more special. It's sort of that difference between going to the sweet little mom and pop shop where they know your name and they've, worked with your family for years and years, and you come in and they're like, oh yeah, how's the family doing? And like they know you and they know your life versus, just like buying something off of Amazon. Like, I love me some Amazon, don't get me wrong, but the place where companies can really excel if you're small really is that personal connection. And so like find every book ever, on, on, just learning to sort of share that part of yourself. And I promise it's not scary. Like, you know, we'll go out and go out for lunch, and I'll teach you how to do it. I've had to practice too. Like, I definitely hear you. It's every time I do a festival, I sort of have this mental block that I have to get over, like right before that I know that I'm going to have to go out and meet all these people. But then once I sort of launch myself into it, it's almost like I just think of, like, I put on, Festival Michelle. It's like, okay, this is the me that is working for this. And right as soon as I'm done, I can go back and I can curl up in bed with a book and, ignore the world. So I definitely understand that.
Cool. So I've got one last question for you because I know we've run out
Okay,
of time here. What is the
sure.
best way to build a new customer base? And sorry, that's from Nancy.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Nancy. The oh man, new customer base. I really just feel like anything that you can ever do to get yourself out there in person is awesome. Like if that is an option at all with your product, whether or not you had sort of boutique items that you were selling and you started doing like maybe some like women's expos or something like that. That's just such a powerful thing. I mean, there's a company that they're based out here in Utah where I'm at, and they sell makeup products, and they sort of do an affiliate program where, like, instead of doing this sort of traditional like housewarming party, Tupperware strategy, they actually have people get a percentage of their sale by hosting online like like Pinterest and Instagram parties, and like doing social media parties where they actually go out, and invite people, and then they have like this live party online, and they'll like do a video of them putting on the makeup and doing a demonstration. And so I love their thinking outside of the box, because they were just like, okay, what does everyone in the world hate? MLM companies. What could we do to sort of still follow that model a little bit, but totally flip it on its head? Like, take everything horrible out of it and turn that pyramid upside down. And so, like, even just them, like, their company has had explosive growth. It's been insane. I would love to meet them, especially since they're here locally. But it was, thinking it's almost like, hey, here's this thing that feels like what everyone else does. I'm going to do literally the exact opposite. And so I love their strategy. And like I said, if you can make it to any shows, and then I really do think it's important to get to a place where you can like ask your friends to share. I know that's like terrifying, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to just be, like pimping myself out, because like we all know people like that. But truly, like, just like having your customers that you already have, just asking them like, hey, and I'd really appreciate if you could tell your friends about me or something like that. Just, be really like honest and upfront and kind and loving to them. And they'll, I think the growth will come anyway. Like, I think if you're a good person and you have ambition and you have a good, energy about you, like, it's going to come your way. Like, it will come your way. Just plant the seed, in the ground and then water it.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Michelle, for sharing your story today.
Sure. Oh my gosh, thank you.
I want to let everyone else know that a recording of this webinar will be sent in a follow-up email, along with a special link to learn more about Soldsie for those of you who are not part of the Soldsie community yet.